So those are the values that I would like to share with parents who are doing life behind the narrow gateway and who would like to pass on biblical values to their children. As I mentioned before, if you want to have something that, you know, is a step-by-step approach of what to actually say and what to actually say, share, please go ahead and get Luke Wilkerson's book. Haley, before you go on to talk about sexual abuse and just honing in on how to protect kids, do you have any comments about some of the values that I've shared?
I think in terms of the values, one of the things for me is, you know, with children, one of the things we need to teach them right from the day they're born is that they are a unique masterpiece created by God. And so their bodies are temples, and so they are temples, and everything they do and everything we do should reflect that in our behavior.
Yeah.
And so if we teach them to respect their body as something special, then they're more likely to make better value choices in terms of their own choices around sexuality. And I think, you know, there's the difference between what I'm choosing to do and act out on and what somebody might choose to try and do to me. And so if we teach our kids to value who they are created in God, that is a huge step in terms of knowing that my whole body is special and unique and created by God. It has a purpose. And we have purpose, and so we need to respect that. We need to treat it as a masterpiece.
Yeah.
I always say, you know, a painting, a masterpiece created by a master artist.
Yeah.
Nobody's just going to throw it around and hand it from place to place and do all of that kind of stuff. They're going to look after it and keep it in the right environment.
Yeah.
And so is that not the same with our children and how we work with them around these things?
Yeah. Yeah, that's powerful. That's powerful. Please go ahead and share with us, you know, let's hone in on sexual abuse and just, you know, some of the, from your experience, you know, how you've gone about equipping parents and equipping teachers and, you know, children's pastors and things like that on how to help their children and protect their children from danger.
Yeah, I think when we begin to recognize the reality of the stats, the 1 in 3 children who are sexually abused, and when we begin to realize what is going on in our world, what our kids are exposed to, you know, something like a protective behaviors program, a safety program, which we can teach the life skills to our kids without having to get into the horrible stuff. Not every child is going to be abused necessarily. We want to try and maintain the innocence of the child and not create an unnatural curiosity. And so there are steps we can take. And yeah, the first one is to start right at the beginning of recognizing my importance and that I have the right to feel safe, that we all have the right to feel safe at all times. And so when we teach something like protective behaviors, we're going to start with, I have the right to feel safe at all times. It is a basic human right. And if we look at the 10 Commandments, they basically create the same environment as, you know, we should not lie, we should not steal. All of those things mean that we feel safe and the people around us feel safe. And then we start to teach about feelings. And one of the things we've learned over the years of teaching protective behaviors is that little boys often feel like they're not allowed to be scared or sad because, you know, they've got to be strong. And our little girls don't feel like they can feel angry. But anger is the emotion that's going to drive us to change. So we want to teach our children that their feelings belong to them and they're allowed to feel them. It's okay. If I'm feeling angry, I can't turn around and punch the child next to me just because I'm irritated with them. I need to talk about it. I need to talk about why I feel what I feel and have open conversations. And right there begins the opportunity to open files with our children, to open conversations. Oh, I can see you feeling so frustrated today. Do you want to tell me about it? And creates opportunities for conversation in the home. I think after that, we want them to recognize when they're not feeling safe. And so often I speak to people and they'll say to me, oh, if only I'd known. Or if I only had listened to my gut. When I walked into the room, I knew something was off, but I decided to ignore it. And then something happens. And so we want to teach children to listen to that inbuilt, you know, response, that adrenaline response, which we call our early warning signs. It's the butterflies in the tummy and the jelly legs and the heart pumping faster. Yeah, that sense that something's not okay and I'm not quite sure what's going on. We want them to learn to listen to that in their bodies and to then talk to somebody when they feel that. Now, I'm not saying every time a child doesn't want to do something, they can say, oh, I've got my early warning signs, now I don't want to do it. Then we need to teach them healthy risk and healthy risk assessment. So am I safe or am I unsafe? Now, if I'm about to go on a roller coaster, I'm not a big fan of heights. So I'm going to have my early warning signs before I get on that roller coaster. But maybe I want to do it. And so that's fun to feel scared. I want to be scared because I want that experience. But I've got control, I've got the choice. But I might have my early warning signs.
Mm.
None of us like to do job interviews.
Yeah.
None of us like to stand up in front of a group of people and do a speech for marks. And so we teach our kids that sometimes they've got to risk on purpose. Sometimes they've got to do stuff that they don't really want to do because they want the outcome. So I want the good marks, or I want the job, or I want to get better. So I've got to let the doctor give me the injection. That's called risky on purpose. That doesn't make me unsafe. I might have my early warning signs, but actually it's okay. Then from there, we've got unsafe. If I don't have choice, I don't have control, I don't know how long something's going to go on for, there's no good reason for this thing, then that makes me unsafe, and we need to know what to do with that.
Mm.
Our next step that we want to teach children is safe and unsafe secrets. I've always said to kids, there are no safe secrets. Because why? In grooming of sexual abuse, the perpetrators will often use a kind of innocent secret
Yeah.
as the starting process of the grooming process. It might be something as simple as a sweet or a present of some sort, or a conversation that might be kept quiet. And so we want to teach children that we don't keep secrets. We never, ever keep secrets.
Mm.
But what we can do is we can tell somebody we trust. If somebody tries to give us a secret, we can tell somebody we trust about it. We can have surprises. So a surprise is a birthday party or a birthday present or a Mother's Day gift or anything like that. And the surprise is kept for a short period of time. Lots of people know about the surprise. The only person who doesn't know is the person who's getting the surprise.
Mm.
And so they're okay.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to get hurt when we have a surprise. There's no threat attached to it. There's no, there is a time limit. We know when we can tell. On the birthday, we can tell the person, surprised it's your party, that kind of thing. And so once we've spoken about secrets, we want to teach the children who they can talk to. Remember our stat? 87% of all people who've been abused are abused by somebody they know and trust. And so often when we've taught safety in the past, we've said to children, go and tell mom, or go and tell dad, or go and tell the minister, or go and tell this person. Well, what if that person is the person abusing our child or the child?
Mm.
And so we want to teach them to find 5 adults that they trust, that they can go and talk to if something happens to them that makes them feel unsafe, that gives them their early warning signs. Could be a secret, it could be something that's happened, it could be something they've seen. And here's where we can start to introduce things like, if you see pictures of things you shouldn't have seen, or something that makes you feel uncomfortable, you can go and talk about it. And at least 2 or 3 people on that network need to be people who are not inside the family. And so it's that village thing again of we need to have people around us that we would feel comfortable having our children talk to if something happens to them, if they don't feel safe enough to talk to us. After we've done the network, we look at public and private. And this is the hard one. When we had our conversation previously, we need to teach our children what their body parts are called. We need to teach them the proper names, not nicknames, because that's not helpful in terms of legal processes if abuse happens. We also want to teach them that, the private parts of their body are no different to the other parts of their body. So why do we call our eyes if, we have to use nicknames for the other parts of the body? Then why don't we call them lookers? Or, we don't call our nose a sniffer or our ears a hearer. So why do we have to call our private body parts by other names? They're not something to be shameful of. We want to teach them that their private body parts are special body parts, that they've got a special purpose in life. And that's where the sex education comes in, that they are special. And so we need to treat them with an extra level of respect and care. And that's why we keep them covered up all the time. We don't share them with other people. We also want to teach children that their mouth is a private part of the body. So you don't just share your mouth with anybody. And that's where the whole body autonomy comes in. So many of us parents don't respect children's right to choose who they want to get a hug or a kiss from. Go and kiss that auntie there, or go and give them a hug to say thank you. And no, actually, we can't do that with our children, because we need to teach the next thing. We need to teach them about personal space, that my body belongs to me, or from my head to my toes, I can say what goes. Because so often children who are abused will be abused by an adult, and they won't feel like they can say no or tell somebody, because all they've ever been told is you have to do whatever an adult tells you to do. So if that adult says you must do this, you must do it. And don't question them. And so children are put at risk by those little practices. I think the other thing we want to teach in personal space is that we've got different levels of personal space. So my private body, my personal space is mine. It belongs to me. I don't have to share it. And if anybody comes into that space, they actually shouldn't be there. I'm allowed to say no. Or if I want a hug, I can say yes and give them the hug back. We then have our kiss, cuddle, and squeeze bubble, where people closest to us, those people that we like to get cuddles from, our moms and dads should be able to be those people. And so to put them into that space. We then have a hug bubble where people we don't know necessarily as well or want them as close to us for as long can go into our hug bubble. We then have our high five bubble. I always call that our safe hug and high five bubble. Yeah, teachers, coaches, they shouldn't be giving us hugs. They can give us a high five. And so we want to teach our children to put people in the appropriate space. We're not going to put an absolute stranger into our hug bubble or our kiss, cuddle, and squeeze bubble, or even into our high five bubble. We want to teach them where to put those people. You know, you're not going to put the postman into that space. And so then we move on to the next bubble where we have our wave bubble. One of the dangerous things we've taught children is that they need to fear every single stranger. And I think some of what we're seeing in South Africa is the dehumanization of children. You know, they kind of don't feel like they can greet other people. They almost become antisocial because all they've ever been taught is that anybody you've never met before wants to abduct you and steal you. And so don't talk to them, don't look at them, don't say anything to them. But we can rather teach them to just bring humanity back. Wave at a person. You can say hello, but you're not going to give them your personal information. You're not going to tell them where you live. You can give them your name, but not your name and your surname. And so we can just bring a little bit of friendliness back into our environment. And then our last bubble is the stranger bubble. And obviously, strangers don't belong in our personal space. But sometimes there may be the need to go to a stranger when we need help. A child who is lost at the shops might need a stranger to help them find their parent again. So not all strangers are evil. We just want to teach them to choose their strangers carefully and what information and what they do. And so we'll teach them. If you go to a stranger to ask them for help, ask them to phone your mom. Don't get into a car with them. Don't go anywhere else with them. Stay where other people can see you and hear what's going on, but ask them to phone. Find a stranger in uniform to help you. But we're not going to just go with other strangers and do whatever they want. After we've taught that around personal space, we want to teach them that they need to keep on talking. So if somebody does something that makes them feel uncomfortable or invades any one of those bubbles without their permission, they're allowed to say no, but they can also keep on talking until somebody helps them feel safe again. So what we call persistence. As adults, we get busy. Sometimes we're too scared to take action or we get tired. And so sometimes adults don't listen to what children have to say to them. So we want to teach children that that's not their fault. It's not their fault that the adult doesn't know what to do or is too scared to take action or doesn't, it doesn't have the energy to take action. It's the adult's problem. And so we can keep on talking to other people on our network of people. And so we want to say to them, sometimes it is that people don't know what to do. Sometimes they're too scared. Sometimes they are tired. Sometimes they're too busy. But if we keep on talking, eventually there may be somebody who will help them feel safe again. Never to give up. And then the last thing we want to teach our children is assertiveness. I think of the terrible 2s and 3s where the one thing we're always saying to our children, don't say no to me or just do what you're told. Well, actually that assertiveness is good for children. They need to be able to say no. Otherwise, when they need to say no, they don't think they're allowed to say no. And then we're surprised when they said, but I couldn't say no. And so we want to teach them that actually they can give consent when it comes to their body and their personal space. They are allowed to say no. There are different kinds of no. I can say, no, thank you, if I don't want to eat something I'm being offered. But I can have an angry, assertive emergency no and shout no if somebody's doing something to me that is not okay. And so that's really the basic steps of what we can teach children to help them feel safe and keep safe so that they begin to recognize early on, oh, I've got my early warning signs. I can talk to somebody I trust. Oh, that person was too busy to listen to me. Now what do? Oh, I can talk to the next person until I feel safe again.
Yeah.
So that's, in a nutshell, what protective behaviors can teach children in terms of helping them just have the strategies. And as parents, that's everyday conversations. When
Yeah.
you see your child feeling scared, do you maybe have your early warning signs? So can we talk about it? All of those kind of things that parents can do on a daily basis.
That is a toolkit. That's powerful. I mean, you said so many things that I could ask you so many questions about. For me, at the end of the day, I'm just like, wow, it takes God. It really takes
Yeah.
it really takes God, because He's given us all these tools. He's given us this knowledge, and it's packaged in you've packaged it in such a way that it's accessible. You know what I'm saying? I mean, what's the
Absolutely.
program with protective behavior? Can you just tell us a little bit about the program and how people can access it?
Yeah, for protective behaviors, it's an international program. So we have trainers in South Africa. And, if people in Nigeria want to do it, we could always come out and do training. www.pb.org.za. And have a look there. And what we can do is we can train parents, we can train professionals in implementing the program. We do it quite a bit in South Africa at the moment, where we go into preschools and schools and we teach the children there. One of the reasons we want to get into the schools is because then children whose parents may be the perpetrators against them don't necessarily have the choice about their children learning these skills to then start talking out about it. But as parents who are following the narrow gateway, you can teach your own child those things. You can teach them about consent. You can teach them about them being boss of their body, and all of that kind of stuff. Very simply, the program is out there and we can train it.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's so critical. It's so, even for us who are living in this century, maybe we're a bit more, with it than our parents were. I mean, just
Yeah.
maybe the savvy of understanding maybe how to navigate our way through the technology and things like that. Even for us, I listen to you and I'm like, wow, how do I make the distinction between a good no and a bad no? I mean, I've got two kids under 3, and I mean my
Yeah.
14-month-old says no. He says no, and I'm like, don't say
Yeah.
no to me. And saying stuff like, don't say no to me and to auntie and to, uncle, and
Yeah.
anything an adult tells you to do, you do. And even when I say that, I find myself thinking,
Yeah.
that can't be right. That can't be right. We
Yeah.
no longer live in the age
Yeah.
where you can say anything an adult tells you. So of course,
That's also
qualify
so.
it. You know what I mean? I've got to be able to qualify it. I need
Yeah.
to understand that, the distinctions of no, just the way you described it. I mean, teaching kids to put people in the appropriate space. My daughter, we're driving, on the streets, and she loves to wave at everybody. She stares and she will
Yes.
wave at everybody. So I said, I mean, you can't just wave at everybody, every single car going past. And then she stopped, and then she won't wave at anybody.
Yeah.
Even when people say hello, she won't wave.
Why not wave at everybody?
You have to say
Why
hello
not wave at
before the
everybody?
people are waving.
Yeah.
So as in, finding the balance. You know what I'm saying? Finding the balance.
Yeah.
That what you've spoken about as well, about as parents, we want our children to come across as friendly and sweet. So you go into a gathering and you're like, go and hug so and go ahead, and before you know it, your child is sitting on someone's lap, and then you don't know how
Yeah.
to stop that situation, even because you yourself are not
Yeah.
comfortable, because we don't know this person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But because they're an adult and we're in an environment, we feel okay, you can sit on so's lap. So just understanding how to pass on the different boundaries, and understanding that yes, you're
Yeah.
nice to everybody, but you place people in pockets.
Yeah.
That's why I like the fact that there is a program. People can actually get
Yeah.
training on these things, and just to be intentional. At the end of the day, God, it's going to be by the mercy of God, by the help of the Holy Spirit. I've got some questions for
Yeah.
you, for us to engage, questions from parents, who are interested, and who have a few tricky thoughts, about this concept of introducing biblical sexuality to our kids, and also just protecting them from sexual abuse.
Yeah.
My choice, and I'll just read to you. My choice as a parent to live behind the narrow gateway is my choice. Right? My child did not wake up one morning and say, I want to do narrow gateway living. I want to be different from everybody. I want to be the only one that doesn't have a TV.
Yeah.
or doesn't watch TV, maybe there's a TV, but I don't watch it. I want to be the only one who doesn't go for the Justin Bieber concert, for example, just giving that as an example.
Yeah.
What do you say to a child who feels like they're being forced into a stricter life, or a life that is less fun, and they have to miss out on all the fun things that all their friends do? Maybe they get made fun of, simply because they have fanatical parents, if I can put that quote unquote.
Mm. I think for me, what we often say to the children is it's our job as parents to protect the children, to do what's best for the children. And so when your parent chooses certain things, it's because of the value system that is in the home. And ultimately, that's the God-given responsibility of the parent, is to create that value system and the environment in the home. And so we often say to children, your parents might be strict, but they're strict because they love you and care about you and want the best for you. And so they are choosing what they believe is the best thing for you right now. When you're older, you get to choose for yourself what you want to do. But for as long as you're staying with your parents, you need to abide by those rules. You need to appreciate those rules and understand that that's what your parent is choosing. I think it's hard for the kids when they go to school and they're not allowed to watch or play the video game or do all of that kind of stuff. They take serious flack from their classmates and their peers at school. But at the end of the day, that teaches them to take a stand. It teaches them to kind of be stronger in, I'm not allowed to do this thing. This is not a value we have. And so we aren't going to watch these programs and things like that. And often I think it in a sense will filter down which friends that child has so that the value systems are a little bit closer to what we actually want for them. Because friends who have completely different value systems are not going to hang around when the child can't have those conversations and engage with them.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Which I think probably links to the kind of environment that a parent creates at home, and not just at home, even within the community and things like that, I think, a parent who says, you know what, we're doing narrow gateway living, so you're just going to be you're going to be different from the other kids, but in your home, you'll find the safest space. We will have fun. We may not have the TV on every single night and watching just about anything that comes up, but we're going to have so much fun. We're going to play board games. We're going to go out. We're going to explore. We're going to go hiking, as in, and in this home, you're going to know love. You're going to know security. You're going to know boundaries. You're going to know, so that the child may feel a sense of irritation at being different. But if they come home and they have something strong that they feel, you know what, I would not trade this, for whatever it is that my friend might have in their own home. That might also, be a something that might be helpful. What do you think?
Yeah, I do think so. I think often, we've seen it in our own home. The friends enjoy coming to our house because we're not glued in front of a television. Yeah, you spend time playing and actually having conversations and doing different stuff and actually engaging with one another. So there's a playfulness and a fun element to not being stuck behind a screen the whole time.
Yeah.
So when you choose those things, children will often say, oh, I wish in my home we could do this kind of thing. I wish my parents would do this, because they don't have that. They don't see that. And then your child kind of looks and thinks, oh, okay, so I am actually lucky to have this. And I do actually get to have more conversations with my parents and talk about things. And so they begin to recognize it. It takes time. It does take time, but they begin to see the fruit of it later.
Yeah. I guess the principle is replace it with something really good. Replace it with the real deal.
Yeah.
And even just the friendships, the community. You can't, and I guess it's a system of choices that a parent has to make. You can't say the values you're going to live by, and then unfortunately maybe your work environment is such that you are never home. So your child is sitting at home.
Yeah.
They can't do anything. They can't go out, but you're never home. You know what I mean? You can't be home because of work or whatever. You've got to. So parents have got to. If we want to do this thing, then we've got to go all the way, type of thing. System of friends.
It's sacrificial.
It's sacrificial living. It's sacrificial living, and linked to what I've just said. Now, there are parents who are listening to this and saying, "Look, guys, this is good. This sounds great, but this is the work I do. I am a XYZ. I cannot practically be at home when my child comes home. I cannot practically be the one who picks my child from school or baths my child. I'm out of the house by 5 in the morning and I come back at 9 p.m. I am not. So you're talking about being intentional. You're talking about I don't have it. I don't have the capacity. I don't have the. I'm not married to somebody, for example, who is going to take care of the children while I, work, or vice versa. You understand what I mean? So what do we say to people who just practically don't have the kind of lifestyle that will allow for this kind of way of living?
Yeah. I think for me, we can look at it in a different way. And I spoke about that village. It takes a village to raise a child. So if we can't be there, we need to make sure we put safe adults around the children who can be there for them, who can create that environment. So if we're out at work all day, where are our children? Are they at school and aftercare? Or is there somebody at home looking after them? And if there is, then those people need to be selected to be the kind of person that could fulfill that role, who could bring in some of that value space and give the children the opportunities to grow and learn and play and have conversations. So if our time is not there, then we've certainly got to put other adults around the child who can create that. Yeah, we look at when we do play therapy and parent coaching, one of the you need to spend half an hour a day with your child, one-on-one, playing with your child. And it needs to be child directed.
Sure.
Child directed, not adult directed. So no, not come, let's sit and do this now. The child needs to say, come mommy, come sit on the floor with me and play. And they decide what you play for that half an hour.
Wow.
To build good relationships and good attachment. But if you're working, then you need to find that time and you've got to catch up that time. So if you work all week but are home on the weekend, well then catch up the time on the weekend. Make concerted effort to spend that time with your child then on the weekend. Spend an hour instead of the half an hour or an hour and a half doing something that the child wants to do, not just what you want to do, but that the child wants to do to help bridge the gap and build the relationship so that conversations can happen. If we can't spend time with our kids just playing or reading a book, how do we expect them to have conversations with us about the tough stuff that's going to happen, about the challenges they face? If they're constantly saying, mommy and daddy are always working, always cooking, always doing this, then they're not going to have the serious conversations. And then we'll be surprised when they make bad choices. But nobody's actually been there to help direct the value choices.
Yeah. Sacrificial parenting. That's what I'm hearing. That's what keeps coming up, because it takes a sacrifice. I mean, now that I'm an older person, I understand my parents better. When I think of when I was younger, maybe in my early teens, you don't realize that your parents are humans, as in that they actually are humans with lives and issues and work situations and stuff like that. You just think that their whole existence is about you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're their whole life. But now that I'm older, I realize that there's so much else going on. The biggest part of my life is parenting, but despite that, there's so much else that's going on around that biggest part of my life, So
absolutely,
the way in which I receive something that my daughter or my son does, it is influenced a lot by everything else that's going on around my life. If I'm saying, let's go, quickly, let's rush, because I know I need to quickly come back and have a meeting with you, for example, and I'm like, we're cool and stuff like that, So the child is hearing, why is mom being so, she's just shouting and she's, what's going on, you know what I mean? But even with that, as a parent, we have to say, you know what? Sacrificial parenting, because as far as this child is concerned, that child, as far as they're concerned, the parent has only one thing on their mind, and it's the child. So they need to see us make the sacrifices. They need to see us make the sacrifices in the way we choose to use our time, in the kind of people we put around us. We might say, I just want to sleep on a Sunday. Oh, I can't go to church. Oh, I just want to, but what you're saying is you've got to pull the people around you. You've got to pull the people around you. You've got to have a network so that when you're not around, there are people that you trust who can be taking care of your child. So you've got to build those close relationships with good, godly people. So that's really great. The last question I think I will share with you is a question that has to do with this thing of how far do you go? There are many people that will say, you know what? Don't try and say, oh, I'm not going to have a TV at home, or we're not going to watch TV, or oh no, we're not going to do screen time and stuff like that, because the kids are going to, go to their friends' houses and watch TV anyway. Or they're going to find a way to get your phone and look at whatever they want to look at anyway. So don't try and say, so almost like regulate what your child is exposed to. A lot of people will say that. My personal view about that is, I think that you can create an environment, you understand, of what your child is used to and what your child is not used to. You can create an environment where your child is used to the fact that when we as a family walk into the house, the very first thing we do is switch on the TV. And that can be what the child knows as life. When we're having supper, the TV is on. The moment there's a 5-second lull in conversation, we grab our phones. As in, you can teach your child that is life, or you can teach your child that there's a TV in the house, but there's specific times that it gets watched. For all of us, not just for you as a child, we don't have phones at the table, for example, etc., etc. So, I mean, what are your thoughts about that? Should we just be going out there and saying, oh, our kids will get access anyway, so let's just give them access?
I think for me, when we look at what's available out there, we need to filter what our kids are seeing. The stuff is not good for children. And there is so much rubbish on our media. There's so much bad programming in terms of what our kids are seeing from a children's programming perspective. They often, when I look at the programming that's available, there's constant disrespect for the adults shown, and almost adults are portrayed as stupid the whole time and not knowing what's going on, and that the children are in control. And then we're surprised when we allow kids to watch that and they start behaving that way. I'm like, well, that's what's been modeled, that's what they're seeing. So for me, it's kind of, I believe in moderation in everything. So if you're going to allow your child to watch TV, put some limits on it and know what they're watching, So I know for us, we've chosen we don't have TV currently. And part of our thing is we can choose what we are going to watch, and I can check the age restrictions, I can check the content before my kids are exposed to it. And then I can decide whether this is something I actually think would be good for them or not. And it doesn't always have to be educational. It just needs to not compromise their value system the whole time or show them stuff that they actually don't need to see. And so for me, it's really as the parent, what am I choosing to allow my children to be exposed to? When I don't let them watch something or I don't let them do something, the conversation is, this is why I don't let you do this. So that when they go to the friend's house, they know the value behind it. And they then have to make the choice. We all made choices where our parents said, don't do this, and we went ahead and did it anyway. But at least they've got the information behind it. I've seen my kids choose to do something they know they're not allowed to do. And I've seen them choose to not do something they know they're not allowed to do. So that's part of the parenting process is, well done, you made the right choice there, or what happened? Why did you go against what you've been taught? But then we can use those as teaching moments. So I would rather manage what I allow in my own home and say is okay in my own home, so that they've got a framework to work from when they go somewhere else. If I allow them to watch anything and everything at home, then when they go to a friend and somebody puts something pornographic on, how does my child know that this is not okay? Everything goes, or let's filter what we're watching. And this is maybe against our value system, so let's rather turn away, walk away, or do something like that. So for me, it is everything in moderation. It's not cut it out completely, but certainly pick what you allow so that you are protecting your kids from unnecessary exposure.
And to be honest, I actually think that, at least the majority of children who are brought up with a certain set of values, they may walk away from it, in their teen years, in their early adulthood, and, forge their own path. But those roots tend to stay within a person. And at some point, you're faced with life and you choose. And many times we tend to choose what we know. We know it as it is, and we tend to choose. It doesn't always happen that way, but I think many times. So it's worth the effort, I think, for parents. It's worth the effort to the extent that we want our children to model and to emulate godly values about sex and sexuality and life and love and intimacy. We pass on those values by the grace of God, and then we trust God. That at the end of the day, when they need to make choices, they'll make the right choices. Thank you so much, Hayley. We have had quite a show. We need to wrap it up at some point because we could explore it from many different angles. But thank you for coming along. Thank you for sharing your expertise with us. Thank you for your candor and just for your depth of experience, and for giving us these toolkits that we can go home with. Thank you.
It's only a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. And please go ahead and share your contact details in case anyone would like to get hold of you or to access the protective behavior program.
Sure. So my email address, Hayley, Hayley, @pb.org.za. So hayley@pb.org.za, or you can go to the website www.pb.org.za. is the easiest to get hold of me.
That's great. That's great. Super. Now, for everyone who's watching, thanks for tuning in. Remember that I want to hear from you and to get to know you. So please reach out to me with an email if you want to share your own experiences about this topic. My email address is thenarrowgateway, one word, @gmail.com. Also subscribe to our YouTube channel called The Narrow Gateway so that you can be the first to know when we upload new chat shows and new video devotionals and things like that. You can also subscribe on my other platforms. You can subscribe on our website. You can like us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Just look for The Narrow Gateway and you'll find us. All those details anyway are going to be on the screen as I speak. And if our content resonates with you, I do urge you to please go ahead and share, engage as much as possible. The content that we're building is for everyone, so please join me in getting it out there. So as I sign out, let me end by saying I am Toyin, fully convicted by my own words and very much under construction in the hands of the Father. Let's do life together behind the narrow gateway. Bye for now.